spirit. The other is crazy. So you better warp. Warp to the safe spot!
Welcome back, Capsuleer. Let's go.
Warp to the safe spot! Warp to the safe spot!
Hello, everyone. This is Rixx Javix. It is February the 3rd, 2026. I do not know what the year is in YC. I should have looked that up. I am your host. This is The Safe Spot, and my co-host is here tonight. His name is
CrazyKinux,
That's him.
also known as CK.
Also known as CK. So tell us a little bit about yourself there, Crazy. Where are you from? What do you do? And why should anyone care?
Well, I am CrazyKinux. I used to be a Care Bear way back in the beginning of this EVE Online adventure. First started
when
playing.
Did you start playing?
Yeah, started playing in 2004, but I started following the game as it was being developed. I was in Toronto at the time, so that's 99, 2000-ish, very early 2000, 2001. Yeah, the art was really effed up. The ships were crazy, organic with spikes and whatnot. I mean, it really caught my attention. So I sort of followed its development. And then I guess late 2003, early 2004 is when I subbed for the first time and then just started. I mean, back then, you logged into the game, created a character, spent a quite amount of time creating the visuals of what your character looked like, only to end up having just a very tiny,
much tinier than today, even.
Yeah, exactly. It was just a face, tiny thumbnail, and then you were just thrown into the universe, and it was good luck. Do what you want to do, try things, poke here and there, and so there was a lot of the learning curve was quite more steeper at the time. And
why it was that? I mean, let's tell people why. If they're new to EVE, they might not even understand how different skill training was back in the day, because it was significantly different than it is today.
Absolutely. So you didn't have, was the tool that we used, that was a third-party tool called EveMon? Was that the name?
EveMon, right?
Yeah. So way back when you could only train and have one skill in the queue. So if your skill ended up finishing in the middle of the night or the wee hours in the morning, you would have to basically log into the game and start up a new skill. You couldn't, when I logged in again for the first time in the game back in the fall of last year, and I was able to queue up like 120 days worth of skills, I was like blown away. Like, this is crazy. Why did we have to sort of fight this way back when and whatnot?
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a whole.
People would set timers. People would set alarm clocks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And wake up at weird hours of the night and just log on to start a new skill. And if you didn't do that, you were wasting like 4 hours or whatever, however the gaps. I remember being insanely crazy about that on a couple of vacations, probably driving my wife insane. But taking a laptop with me on vacation just so I could log in to keep my skill train going.
Yeah. Or you would, manage to start training. If you knew you were gone for a couple of days, you would start training a skill that would take that long, so that you wouldn't have to, as you did, log in the middle of your vacation to queue up another. So I mean, times were
a different
much
world.
more difficult. Yeah, it was a different world. I don't know if you remember, like bookmarking, when would start, exploring a system and you wanted to sort of navigate, or you'd go through the system, you wanted to make it your home base. You would have to bookmark everything, every gate to zero, like everywhere. Anything that you had to do, or otherwise you would, I can't remember what it was, like 20K?
Yeah, something like that. 10 or 20, I don't remember.
That you would normally
you couldn't warp to zero.
Yeah, so basically you'd have people go in and, some of your court mates, and they would go into a system, and then they'd, warp to 20K, get close to the gate, create a bookmark, and then that you would share that bookmark so that you would at least have that.
This, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this used to be a way of making ISK and EVE. Insane people who
Mm-hmm.
had no relationships to friends or family, would spend countless hours building libraries of bookmarks and then sell those on the open market or to their alliances for large sums of ISK. Libraries of bookmarks.
So it must have
Crazy.
been crazy. I wasn't there when I don't know when CCP switched to making warping to zero a default.
It
You
was
in
before I started. I know that. This did not exist in 2008 when I started playing.
like bookmarks didn't exist
Oh
or
no,
warping?
bookmarks did, but bookmarks
Yeah.
still exist. When I started, you could warp to zero.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this was just a story that I heard from people like yourself when I
Yeah.
started.
Yeah.
Do you know
That was
why I
actually
started in 2008?
no.
Because I couldn't start any earlier. I started right after Eve became available on the Apple. So
Oh
yeah,
shoot!
I couldn't start any earlier.
I remember
So
that whole thing
yeah,
with making it available
Macintosh, yeah,
on Macintosh.
on
Yeah,
Apple
crazy.
OS. Yeah, I couldn't start any earlier because it was a PC only.
And nowadays, I mean, I run it on Windows. I don't even think of if it's available on Mac. I guess it's available on Mac.
It's the same now. It doesn't have its own. It doesn't. It's no longer an emulation. It is
Got
the
it.
same build. It's a unit build now. Once Apple switched over to a more common processor, that started that process. So that was a while back. But so it's been out of emulation now for quite a while.
So no
And
bugs, no issues.
that had its own nightmare, which
Yeah.
probably there's so many problems with emulation.
Yeah. So, anyways, suffice to say that it was a different game back then, but it still had the same essence in the sense of one sandbox, one server, everybody on the same server. A harsh reality where you could lose a ton in terms of even skill points. We had to have clones that we would ensure up to a certain level of skill points, and if you didn't do that and you got potted and then you got killed, then you would lose a ton of skill points. So that was a very harsh world, but it had its sort of aura. And I started blogging at the time. This was 2005, early 2005, I think. The blog's going to celebrate, my blog is going to celebrate 21 years in a couple of days, I think on the 12th or 11th
Wow.
of February. And way back when, I actually started earlier, but I would code in HTML. The blogger
Oh my
either didn't
goodness.
exist or I didn't know about it, and WordPress neither. I started blogging about it and then started looking for people that also played the game and blogged about it, and slowly built up a roster of Eve blogs, and that led to the blog Banter, the blog Pack, and this whole community of bloggers. At I think at the time when I sort of pulled out of or stopped blogging and whatnot, the blog Pack, all the blogs, all the listing of the bloggers were probably close to 500 blogs at the
Yeah.
time. Twitter was in its infancy, and there weren't as many other types of social networks. Twitch didn't exist and whatnot. So all of it was, or a lot of the activity was concentrated into blogs. And
Yeah, we were hot stuff back then.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know. And then this last fall, I actually started cleaning up the blog, and basically by going through some older posts and updating links and whatnot, I came across this documentary that was done 2, 3 years ago called "The Making of EVE Online." Listened to the whole thing. Man, nostalgia just hit me like a hammer, like
Yeah,
Thor's
it'll
hammer.
get you.
And
Yep.
yeah, and then I said, why not? At the time, what was the Catalyst is the latest
Yep. Catalyst expansion. Yep.
expansion, and so that was being, once I had listened to the documentary and seen a couple of gone back to the websites, I was hit by a whole slew of ads, and I said, "Hell, why not?" And subbed again, and I've been playing more and more since then. So
That's so
here,
great.
here I am. So I'm back, but you've all
Yay.
you've
Well,
stayed.
and we've stayed in contact over those years too. You didn't disappear, which is nice. You were still around.
Absolutely. I mean, it's hard. You can take the guy out of New Eden, but it's hard to take New Eden out of the
Out of the
guy.
guy. Yeah,
So
nobody really leaves.
no, you keep an eye on
Yeah.
it. You watch the
Yeah.
news. You listen to, you read articles and whatnot. about crazy things happening in that gaming universe that you played, and it pulls you
And
back in a little bit every time.
yeah, and you're not the only one. I mean, even just in the last month, I've probably had this conversation with 10 or 12 people who had vanished for years and are suddenly back. I'll be going through local and I'll see a familiar name and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so and so. Send a convo and hey, Rixx, how are you? And yeah, I've been gone for 8 years, or I just couldn't. I just had to come back, and
Had to,
I've had that conversation quite a bit.
yeah, had to scratch that itch, and I think it has a lot to do with the nature of how they built New Eden and the fact that it's one sandbox and that everything
Yes.
happens in this
Oh,
one
it's so
universe.
brilliant. Yeah, it's so
And
brilliant.
I mean, it's crazy to think when I think about it. Way back then, not even, I mean, I was with my fiance, who's now my wife. But we didn't have any kids. This is early 2000s, and we're still talking and playing within the same gaming universe.
Yeah.
You would have told me that 20 some years ago, and I would never have believed you. I mean,
Oh
no
my
other
goodness, no
game I
way.
know,
No way.
has done this.
No, and I mean, it was one of the things that really, and I had never played an MMO before. I've been playing video games my entire life, from Pong on, just to give everybody a sense of how freakishly old I am. But I had never played an MMO before. Again, primarily because my computer of choice has always been the Apple because of my creative slant. Just not a lot of video games were available for that. And then, so most of my gaming up until that point had been mostly console based, board games, consoles, PlayStations, Xboxes, things like that.
Okay, okay.
Computer games weren't really something that we thought a lot about because we were Mac people. So computer games were for PC people.
So you must have played, a bit of like I was, well, this is gonna age me as well.
Oh gosh.
Zaxxon and Troll and Moon Patrol back on the Apple
Oh,
IIe.
absolutely, yeah. Oh, no, and
Yeah.
then early days of my agency, during lunches, once a week, I limited it to once a week, but once a week, all of us who were interested would all get on a LAN during lunch hour, and we'd play Unreal Tournament. As a
Nice.
matter as a matter of fact, I got so involved in that probably not a lot of people know this, but I used to make custom Unreal Tournament maps.
I
Yeah,
did not know that.
there were whole communities that came up around building maps for Unreal Tournament.
Yeah, and that's actually a good. I mean, that's the strength of, I think, the game and the universe and New Eden and Eve Online is the community and the fact that that's what keeps the game so interesting. That's what drives the devs crazy sometimes. Probably. I mean, I haven't
Oh, I'm
dived
sure.
into that hole, but way back when, I mean, they would put out something and community would do something else with it, and it would screw their plans and whatnot. That's
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
still true.
Those
But
unintended consequences are a big part of EVE Online, in the
yeah,
history of
yeah.
EVE Online. Yeah,
But that's what makes it so fantastic. But in your
yeah,
case, not only have you been there for a very long time, but you've been involved in a number of projects. You've created a ton of art. I mean, that is your professional background, but you're well known for that, right?
yeah, yeah. And I didn't start out to do any of this. When I started playing, it was primarily to play with my son, my oldest son. He's the one that introduced me to the game. He showed me EVE Online running on his computer, and I immediately fell in love with it because it was a 3D spaceship floating in a hangar. And then when he undocked that spaceship, it was probably an Ibis. When he undocked it into space, I was like, "Oh my gosh, my head is blown! I had never seen anything quite like it." And I remember asking him. I said two things: "It runs on a Mac?" And he's like, "Yeah, it just came out on a Macintosh." And I said, "Who makes this?" And he's like, "I have no idea. It's some company in Iceland." And I said, "Well, I'm going downstairs to the studio and I'm going to download it on my computer and we can play together." And he's like, "Okay, great." He goes, "I haven't created a character for real yet. So we can do that. So I go downstairs, I download it and get it up and running. He comes down. He says, "You could create your character." And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to create it." He goes, "What are you going to call yourself?" And I said, "Well, the capital of Iceland is Reykjavik. said, so I'll just call myself Rixx Javix. How's that sound? It sounds like the capital of Iceland. And he's like, oh, that's awesome. So come up when you're done. Come up and help me come up with a name for my characters. Yeah, that's how. And for the first year or two, from 2008 till 2010, I really didn't play a lot. I didn't have a lot of time. I had a business to run and a family to put together, and life stuff.
Yeah.
So I basically just played on the weekends. Sometimes in the evening if he had something going on, and essentially I just followed him around the universe wherever he went. We both joined the same corporations. We went to nullsec together. We joined alliances together. Every once in a while, we would get tired of being together in the same space. So he would go off and join Ursha Khan, and then I would go to the Spire. We would join back up again later and share our stories, things like that as he got older. But then around 2010, that's when I started Eva Ganda. That's sort of when I
Your blog.
that's when I started the blog. Up until that point, there were times when I was in Providence, which is the region of nullsec that we were mostly in during that time.
Okay.
When people would come up on comms and go, we need a logo, or we need something for the forums. Forums were a big deal back then. I can do that for you, and I'd take care of it. I built a newsletter for our corporation. It was a PDF newsletter that we shared. It had like stories that had happened. And then I started doing propaganda for CVA. We were in an alliance called Libertas Fatalis, LFA, which was part of CVA group down there. And believe it or not, the alliance executor of LFA, which was the first alliance that I ever was a part of, this is 18 years ago. The executor, that's still a friend of mine. He owns an ad agency in Minneapolis, and I still do work for him every once in a while.
Crazy.
So that's sort of how art started to work its way into the game. And then once I started the blog, then it was designing templates and memes and blog post graphics and things like that. That's really sort of where everything got started, was with the blog, getting involved, having read primarily your blog and Rock Weiler's blog.
Is he still playing?
No, he doesn't play, but he's a Facebook friend, so we stay in touch.
Yeah.
Met him in Toronto when we went up to Toronto for Eve Toronto during the World Tour, which is kind of cool.
I've met him. I've met him once.
And so that's where Eve really started for me. I can still remember I was in HiSec. This is very early. Caldari Space in Picura, if anybody's familiar with that star system. So Picura is right on the border of Losec, which I guess is Blackrise, and the system is Mara, and there's that's a famous gate from Losec to HiSec, and usually camped a lot of the times. I don't know if it is so much now, but one time a few of us got up our courage and decided to jump into Mara. It's absolutely hysterical, because all we remember, and my son and I talk about this even today, all we remember is a bright flash of light and some explosions, and we were back in the station. None of us could figure out what had happened to us. It was the first time I had experienced that kind of combat, not with NPCs. There's just players that blew us up in a gate camp. And
the moment you showed up.
Yeah. And I was just fascinated by that.
So was that the first time that happened?
That was the first time that I'd been potted and lost the ship. This is just a couple of weeks into the game, probably.
Yeah, mine was. I remember I was mining, and I couldn't tell you the names of the systems or whatnot. I mean, that's something that you've accumulated yourself, Rixx, which I'm still sort of like diving back into as I make my way into the game.
Familiarity with it, right?
Yeah.
It's a lived-in thing. I'm living it every day, so it doesn't leave you. When you are away from it, then those things start to fade.
Because the map has completely changed in the game. Like what I knew and what is there is something that I'll have to sort of wrap my head around how to use it and whatnot. I mean, get the old map in memory. So, but anyways, I was mining, been doing it for probably a number of hours going back and forth between the asteroid belts and the station. I was alone, and for whatever reason, I decided I had time to. I think I was in an Eteron Mark V, big hauler
Yep.
back then.
Yep. Long tube.
This was like 2004, 2005, 2004. I went for a shower, of all things.
That
And I
sounds different.
remember the moment I'm in the shower because I sort of got up and went, I'm safe. Yeah, this is safe. I haven't seen anybody and, it should be fine. So I'm in the shower and then I realize, Jesus, I'm not. So I get out of the shower. I'm running to the PC. I'm dripping all over the desk and I'm looking at a little blinking pod.
What happened?
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because at the time, it seems like the end of the world. Oh my god, I lost this and the ship and everything, and I don't have but you sort of, you crawl back to the station and then you sort of get back into it. But, man, that was, I mean, I can still, picture myself in the shower going,
One of the craziest things that I will never forget, when I started playing, I was like, I'm just going to do this by myself. I'm going to be solo. I'm just going to hang out, the hang of this. I'm going to go to asteroid belts and mine and build my own ships, and I'll be fine. And my son's like, okay, I'm going to go find a corporation to join because he was smarter than me. So he comes back. He says, I found a corporation. It's great. People are awesome. You should come join. And I'm like, oh, all right. Shortly after we joined is when the corporation decided to move to Providence and join LFA. So we had our home base was in Picura in HISEC, but we all had to move down to Providence because I was, not playing all that often. I was one of the last people to do that. So the CEO, whose name was Cul-de-sac, believe it or not, he took me from a Mars space and helped me guide. I was in a Merlin, and he took me all the way down the pipe into Providence, which is quite a long drive, through 17, 18 jumps through nullsec. And the whole way he talked me through everything about how nullsec works and how gate tax, because we wouldn't warp to the gate at 0. We would warp to a bookmark, 250K or whatever off of a gate.
yeah,
And then, he would say, well, look, you could watch and see if people are coming through the gate or not. If they're not, it might be camped on the other side. I'm like, oh, that's pretty smart. Then we would see other people. And it really, more so than anything else that had happened up to that point, this is probably only 3-4 weeks into the game.
so this is like 2008-ish.
Yeah, 2008, probably November 2008-ish, maybe even October. More than anything, that trip instilled in me the sense that not only is, and this is really kind of the thing that changed everything for me as far as MMOs go, as opposed to other computer games, is that all of these ships, all these names that I was seeing in local, all of this were people. They
Yeah,
really. I mean, I knew that going in, of course, but it brought it to life. It brought it to, hey, these are all people just like me on the other side of a computer somewhere in the world, and they're trying to do just as well as I'm trying to do. And that instilled in me a whole sense of, well, I've got to blow these people up. I've got to I've got to figure out a way to do better than them, right? I've got to figure out how to stay alive and not let them kill me. How do I do that? And that was really sort of eye-opening for me. Is this universe was alive with thousands and thousands of real human beings who were striving just as hard as I was to stay alive and learn the game. And a lot of them had 5-year head starts, and that was a tough pill to swallow too, because I'm in a Merlin and I'm basically just trying to skill myself into bigger ships, and they're all flying battleships. And as I eventually found out, a few of them even had Titans and capitals and things. But that was a real motivating factor for me, that experience of going to Providence down the pipe with the CEO.
so that's when sort of the pirate was born. You weren't a pirate before.
Mm.
You were just what, like just
No, no,
sort of
no.
doing the
This is
missions, doing
pirate.
regular stuff.
So LFA's tagline, and I don't remember it because it's in Latin, but it was anti-pirate. So,
Holy, okay.
oh yeah, we did not tolerate pirates in CVA and in LFA. We hated pirates, and no, those first few years, I was a soldier in nullsec. I was a combat pilot, scout, became minister of
Leaf,
propaganda. Yeah, became
Leaf
minister of propaganda.
Force,
Yeah,
Force
yeah, and
Auxiliary.
gosh, what's his name? He still plays. Anyway, he asked me to help start a cloaky division and lead fleets. This is, a lot of FC training went on back in those days. There was a gentleman, his name is Naron. He was really a good pilot, and he would hold FC classes. So
And
there'd
for those that
be,
don't know
yeah,
what an FC is, that
a
stands
fleet
for.
commander, fleet
There you
commander,
go.
people who run fleets. And I remember one of the things that was so cool, Pro God Legend. If anybody knows Pro God Legend
The
with
character,
well,
the player.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh God. As you're talking and like naming all these corps and alliances and characters, I'm just googling and finding and oh yeah,
Okay, so
that's
what is
amazing.
Pro God? Pro God's call to fame is the fact that he was the one who forgot to pay the SOV bill that led to the Battle of BR back in the day. So one of the largest
Seriously.
battles, yeah, one of the largest battles in Eve history started because he forgot to pay the SOV bill. Pro God would lead a lot of our fleets, and I can remember in particular one time we were in a 200-man battleship fleet and he had to go. A personal thing came up, his wife or whatever it was, I don't remember. And he said, Rixx, could you take it from here? And I did. I stepped in the FC. And I can remember that feeling of telling everybody to warp to a certain place and 200 battleships all turning together and warping together. And it was just one of the most impressively cool things.
Wow.
It still sends chills up my spine, just thinking about it. And even all these years later, and I've done, many more fantastical things than that, but it's still just a memory from those early days of, just having all those ships doing what you wanted them to do. It's a pretty cool feeling.
That's crazy. Yeah, I'm looking up here. Pro God Legend seems to be now the new leader of Pandemic Horde.
There you
So
go.
he's still in the. Well, I mean, this is from
Well,
3 months, few
Horde
months
is
ago.
all,
So
and Horde's a mess and all falling apart and stuff. So who knows what's going on there? Well, I mean, this is when I met the Matani back in those days. Goon Swarm had just been, I mean, the Band of Brothers thing had just recently happened. Goon Swarm was still a very small, sort of growing empire. They weren't like what we think of Goon Swarm today. They would show up in Providence like a 200-man Rifter fleet. I remember one time they showed up with like 150 Badgers, battle Badgers, and so we all undocked in battle Badgers and had a big fight with them in Badger versus Badger fight, which is incredibly slow fight to have. So it was a lot of fun back in those days too, not just wars and everything, but yeah, so pretty cool
speaking of that,
time. Learned a lot.
have you had a chance to read the Empires of Eve?
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely.
Those books. So that's crazy.
Yep.
I mean, the history in those books and the history in Eve is just absolutely
Well,
mind-boggling.
it circles back to this whole idea of it being a linear history that is an ongoing one. It's being written right now while you and I are talking. There are things going on in the universe right now that we are not aware of that are transforming people's lives. Even as we're speaking and recording this podcast,
Absolutely.
it never sleeps, except for that brief moment, that
Yeah.
ever brief moment in the morning, which used to be significantly larger of downtime and rebooting. But
How long is that
yeah,
now? Because I remember that in the morning, because it was the morning for us here in Eastern Time Zone. But
yeah,
that's
I'm not
that's all
really up at
happened.
that, not really on it at that time, but I think we're down in the like 15-20 minute range. And they're really trying and thinking about it being never, getting it down to where they don't have to do it at all.
So what's next for Rix? What are you currently doing? What are you in terms of within the game and some of the projects? I mean, this podcast is one of those things that we've decided to do together. as I sort of dive back into the universe of New Eden. But what are you up to?
Now we're in the planning stages for our annual frigate free for all. I know I get a lot of comments and emails and DMs from people asking when it's going to be. I apologize because we have not been able to put a pin in a date yet, but it is going to be either in March or early April. I can guarantee that. We're just waiting on a few things to work itself out. And I'll say why that is because of what happened last year. We put a pin in a date too early. We had a couple of competing events happen on that same Saturday,
Okay.
and that really kind of, it's not aggravating to me that other people would plan events. It's not that. It's just that it takes away from their event and it takes away from our event. And I really don't want to run into that. So I'm waiting on a couple of other things to fall into place before we put a pin in it. And
What's the activity search for those that don't?
so every year we put on a Stay Frosty and a Band Apart host a frigate free for all, in which we build 10 to 20,000 fully fitted frigates. We have them in stations and we hand them out to anyone who docks in the station and wants one. And you can undock, and it's just madness for about 7 or 8 hours on a Saturday. And we keep doing it until we run out of ships to hand out. People will come and camp the system or bring capitals, and we'll undock orcas and special ships. I've undocked marshals, carriers. I think I undocked a Naglfar one year. Thousands of frigates killed me. So it's a blast. It's awesome. It is a way for young players, especially, who may never have experienced PvP before because they're afraid of losing an asset or getting hurt, just would like to come and see what it's all about. And you can just pick up a frigate, undock, and go find out for yourself what this is all about. We try to enforce the no potting rule, which works pretty well. Everybody seems to get along. We've been doing this for, oh gosh, I think this will be, I'd have to look it up. I don't know off the top of my head, but I think this is our 15th year in a row.
Wow.
Yeah, this is and this event is huge. Over the course of those 7 or 8 hours, literally thousands and thousands of people will participate. Some of these events in the past have resulted in like record amounts of destruction. In fact, one of them a few years back, I think CCP Fozzie said, I'd have to look up the exact quote, but it was the largest single day of death in LowSec in all of EVE Online history. We hold a lot of records as far as that goes for that event. It's one of the largest player hell events in all of EVE Online. We're quite proud of it. We get a lot of donations. We get a lot of special things happen. Sometimes angry. A few years back, someone was overzealously donated an officer fit Hell supercarrier. This thing was, I can't remember exact number. It was worth 400, 500 billion. It was a very expensive ship. And as a matter of fact, I could not even fly it because I don't have super skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we don't fly supers. I couldn't even fly it, and it was in a station like in nullsec, so it would have had to been jumped out. We thought about it for a long time what to do, and I mistakenly had said something about it on Twitter, and it got around that I was going to have an officer fit Hell on dock during the event, and certain parties in EVE Online were very anxious for me to do that. I ended up deciding that it wasn't worth the aggravation and just gave it back to the donor. I documented that and took screenshots of it and had them write out that I had done that and everything. I took screenshots of that too, just to validate, because I take the donations quite seriously, because people will donate thousands of ships sometimes.
And that one was a mistake, basically, or something.
Well, it wasn't a mistake. It was just that it was inappropriate, I think, and I just didn't feel that it fit the event. That much money, and I knew what was going to happen. People were going to hot drop it and ruin the event. Plus, I have to live with that on my kill board. But besides that, though, but people did not take it well. And even today, there are a few players who will pop up every once in a while on Reddit or somewhere and say that I stole it for my own personal gain. But that's not true.
Yeah. But that's the nature of of EVE, of
absolutely,
coming up with a system where so many of these sort of grievances can happen, and playing field and the rules by which those are, we engage are so loosely. I mean, they're well defined, but the that play-in box is huge, so you're bound to
Oh, well,
come
absolutely.
across people that want to play a certain way, and then they run into a bunch of pirates like yourselves, or they'll run into goons or whatnot, and it changes the nature of their game. But it is within the nature of New Eden, so
It
it's
is.
totally
It is. It's all part of the
totally fair
game.
game.
Yeah, it is. And also, and I'm sure we'll talk about this in future installments, but anytime that you take on some responsibility and stick your head up above the sand, there's going to be someone come by and try to kick sand in your eyes. And that's just
Every
the
time.
nature of it too. And that is part of the responsibility of taking on some responsibility, is knowing that that's going to happen and then just being steadfast. It's one of the things that have ensured the survival of Stay Frosty over the last 13 years, when other pirate groups have come and gone, and we remain steadfast in our mission when others have moved on or done other things or disappeared or whatever. Is Stay Frosty is that it's that steadfastness and belief in what we are doing that has ensured our survivability through wars, to greater powers trying to destroy us through, I mean, I could go on and on. There's just a long list of great stories about how people have tried to undermine us or destroy us for various reasons over the years and have failed because of that. So
Hmm.
it's part of the game.
Yeah, and it both makes the game sometimes difficult for some of us. I was a Care Bear way back when. I'm sort of still am one, but I'm trying to get into PvP a bit more. I'm sort of
Yay.
training for that.
Yay.
Recently joined Vault, and because as much as yes, you can play Eve solo, but it's that much more difficult. And I was, reading up on some of the blog posts that I had written like 15 years ago about the fact that when you join a corp, whether it's pirate Stay Frosty type of operation, or some industrial conglomerate or whatever it is, it's that camaraderie that you get from the other players, the help that you get, the learning curve becomes that much easier. You quickly get to understand aspects of the game that you would never have had done had you did this by yourself.
Yep.
So, I mean, that is what makes this game so different from what's out there. Like you mentioned, when you first came across Eve and you'd never seen this before. I don't know if you remember, like Earth and Beyond sort of came out um, at the same time
Yep. I remember it.
um, as Eve Online. I think it was released. Was it EA? I think it was Electronic Arts. Was the publisher
Might have
behind that
been.
game. I might be wrong, but anyways, I played the game and whatnot, and it was absolutely. And I don't know if it's because this one was designed by Vikings or what it is, but the games were completely at opposite end of what an MMO,
Oh, absolutely.
the
Sure. Yeah.
concept of an
No.
MMO.
Right.
So
Right.
that was very different. And this was space. This was a futuristic sci-fi. At the time, you had a bunch of very fantasy-based MMOs, and so this one really stood out for
Do
me.
you,
So
do you know what I think? And I've thought about this quite a bit over the last few years. And I've had this conversation with quite a few of my friends at CCP over the years as well. But I think that some of my thoughts have just recently been coalescing into an idea that perhaps, possibly, one of the saving graces, and I know a lot of people are probably not going to like what I'm about to say, but one of the saving graces that has allowed Eve to stay alive for so long, in my opinion, is the fact that it does not have characters, that it does not have walking in stations and that it doesn't have ambulation of any
Mhm.
kind, because we it's almost like radio in a way, right? We imagine our characters as characters, but technologically speaking, a lot of what it looked like in 2003. I have a whole folder of
Yeah.
screenshots from those days, because it's fascinating to see how it has developed over time. But I think that would have been a real hindrance to its development and to its enjoyment if there had been people walking around, stick figures or whatever it was in 2003. I think the focus on spaceships in space has really saved the game from major technological blunders over time, and given it longevity past its years. I think so. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
It's a
I think
thought.
I would tend to agree because they did try at one
Yep.
point to have
Oh, it was
that and
horrible.
started exploring it and whatnot. You know,
Captain's quarters.
besides the yeah, and besides, I mean, there was no real purpose to the narrative of the game itself. Uh, and what was the like Dust 514?
Yep.
That was their first,
Yeah. And we have V Vanguard now, and
FPS. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, I think the fact that within Eve Online, as we know it, the fact that you're not your character, you know,
you.
you're you, but the ship, it allows you to be a bunch of different things, and sort of adds another layer to the character that I've built, the attributes that I have, the skills that I have. But then I'm not limited to whatever that character needs to be because it is of this, you know,
Yeah.
it's a paladin, it's a sorcerer, it's a, I have to stick to that. In this game, you can go full on, PvP as part of a huge alliance. You can go PvP as a pirate. You can do um, you can do
You
industry, you can do
so many
mining,
things.
you can do, I mean, and there's even like meta levels, folks that basically pull the strings on alliances,
Yep.
sometimes even don't log into the game or barely log into the game. They're more the politics behind everything that happens at that level.
Yep.
So that's
Exactly.
another peel on the onion. So yeah, no, I mean, there's all sorts of. It was a gamble back then, I guess, to do it that way. No other
Oh,
game had,
absolutely.
and
No, it was
no
unique.
other game has done something similar.
No other game has even tried it. Really. Even
Yeah.
even some of the ones that have come up in the space, to pardon the pun, but
Uh-huh.
since then have gone, full ambulation, walking around on planets, walking in stations, getting in your spaceship, having a character driving the spaceship, and Eve just hides all that.
Yeah, it
It's an interesting take.
absolutely. Um, so in that sort of idea, I'm looking at, because I'm coming back to the game, sort of trying to wrap my head around everything that's changed, everything that's similar and whatnot. I was thinking, because I'm looking at, like what skills to train to do X, Y, and Z, how to, put, the fittings that I want to put on my Merlin, and then I recently got a mess up the name, like a cormorant. What's that?
A cormorant, yep. Yep.
Yeah, cormorant.
Caldari Destroyer, Tech 1
There you
Caldari
go.
Destroyer.
So, in terms of skills, it'd be interesting for me to sort of ask you at one point, maybe do some content posts around that, the type of skills that a wannabe pirate needs to sort of invest in and starts training and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's great. It's very good. There's wonderful tools in the game now that I don't know if you've run across yet, which will show you exactly what skills and what levels you need them at for each ship that you're planning to fly. It's part of the skill ship show info on each ship. There's a sidebar to the left that has attributes, skills. If you click on that skill one, it'll show you exactly the skills you need and the levels you need to have them in order to fly the ship and operate the ship. It's pretty cool. That's a thing that was recently added. Recent, maybe 7-8 years ago. There's skill trees. There's a ship tree now too that shows
Yeah.
you all the ships that lead. That's pretty cool. There's so many tools now available that weren't available when we started playing, but have been added over the years that make it a lot easier now. But I think that's a very valid point. Yeah, destroyers are fun. They're fun ships.
It's a completely different type of flying, though. But yeah, no, you're talking about like the air carrier program and the whole skills with the different sort of things that you can do, like the enforcer and security and the explorers, and it sort of
Yeah,
guides
right,
you
right.
through that process, which before
Yep.
was completely poking things in the dark and seeing what works and whatnot. It's funny. I came across an old post of mine that mentioned. I don't even mention the name, but I'm like, there's this player that's started to going around and visiting all the systems of Eve,
All right. Yep.
uh, and she came across first gate within New Eden, the one that closed up and whatnot, and we should
Right.
go
Yep.
see that. And
Yep.
it's absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah, it was Katya Say. And
Yeah.
yeah, we're friends too. And then Mark had the Eve Travel blog, which is still up. I used it quite a bit when I was doing the board game because I would be like scratching my head, like, whoa, man, I need a really interesting background for this card. And where is that thing? And I would go to Eve Travel and I would just do a search for certain sites, and then I would read the blog post about the site, and then I would go there and get reference for the particular thing that I needed for the card. So I used that blog a lot for the board game.
Like for the systems that were visited.
Yeah, he writes a blog post on sites around New Eden. That's his whole thing. He would travel around and go, this is this rack here, or this certain nebula, or this thing that's in space, and here's the backstory, and then here's the whole narrative around it, and here's what I found when I got there, and it's a pretty
And
cool
he's still
site.
doing that?
No, I don't believe he's still writing,
Oh,
but the blog is still up. It's
okay.
called Eve
Okay. Yeah.
Travel. Eve Travel. Check it out.
Yep. Yeah. 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 I think yeah, that rings a bell. Speaking
Yeah,
of
he was.
blogs, I am putting together Black a list of active Eve Online
Oh, that's
uh,
awesome.
bloggers. I
Excellent.
don't know if we'll ever get to the sort of level of activity that we had in the past, but that's
Well,
definitely something
I
that I
can
want
tell
to do.
you, sadly, that I'm in the Eve partner. I'm obviously an Eve partner, and I'm in the Eve partner Discord. And there is a section of the Discord where you can post new blog posts. I post there every time I make a blog post. I post it there, and
Okay.
there are only 3 of us active in that folder.
Let's see what we
There's
can do.
there's only three
So,
people.
yeah. So if you're listening to this and you've got an Eve dedicated, Eve Online dedicated blog, let us know,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'll
please.
add you to the. I don't know if I'm going to call it the Eve Blog Pack again.
Right.
And that's funny because it's still on
Hmm.
my blog. Those blog posts are still coming up as the top most viewed
Oh, that's
blog
awesome.
post for the month. Anyways, but
That's
if we can sort of
hysterical.
change that with something that's more recent,
Well, I
and
think of a new name for it.
yeah, yeah, we need to come up
Yeah.
with something.
Yeah, I took the links off of mine because they were all dead, and maybe if we can get enough people to do it, then maybe I'll put them back.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you've got some that you and I need to talk and
Yeah, yeah,
see
and
if
compare
we can
notes.
get, yeah, absolutely, and
Okay.
do that. So,
Do you want to wrap up? You have anything you want to say at the end here?
well, if you've got any ideas or in topics that you want us to cover, things that you want us to sort of explain, things that you can't wrap your head around, or you want to hear some old stories of how this and that happened, let us know. Send us, leave a comment in our posts, either on Evoganda, so Rick's blog, or mine, CrazyKinux Musing,
Yep.
and we'll be happy to discuss those. And if you want your name shout out during mentioned during a next episode, let us know as well, and we'll make sure to thank you and mention your name when we
Yeah, excellent. That's a great
discuss the
idea.
topic. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll put the links to our blogs in the description below the video here. This podcast will be, for the time being at least, will be on my YouTube channel. Feel free to like and subscribe. Always wanted to say that. And then we'll see how it goes down the road. We're kind of finding our way. We don't have any sort of grand scheme in mind for this thing, so we're kind of finding our way, and we're going to let the community kind of lead us where it goes. And so at some point down the road, we may get more serious about it. We'll see how it goes.
absolutely. More structured. For now, we're just seeing how things goes and trying to have a bit of fun doing it.
Yeah, yeah. So at the end of each of these episodes, I'm going to play a little music for you. And this is a song that I wrote, and I hope you enjoy it. And take care, and we'll see you next time.
Fly safe.
Whoa, oh, whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. Whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, oh, oh, oh. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. There's a drake sitting lonely in the middle of the belt. Hull half gone, guns offline, looking ready to melt. Typing GF in local before a shot is fired. Name spelled wrong, bio long, says I may be retired. Cargo scans, vibes are weird, something here don't feel just right. Overviews blinking like it's trying to be polite. Oh, that's bait, yeah, I see it now. Whole tank dreams, hope and duct tape, trying to look lowbrow. Oh, that's bait, smile, wave, don't engage. If it looks too good to be true, that's because it is, my friend. He's orbiting the gate at a very human speed. Says he's new to PvP, flying faction fit indeed. Sitting on a gate in low with a cargo full of trash. Named his ship, free kills all, insurance paid in cash. D-scan full of maybe, local council life. Someone's cousin's AFK, but won't say goodbye. Oh, that's bait, I've been here before. Solo frig with a backup fleet, hiding 2 jumps more. Oh, that's bait, count to 8, then leave. Wave hello, save your ship, live to lose it differently. He wants you mad, he wants you brave, wants your lost mail framed and saved. But patience pays and patience flows. Warp to 0, not the bows. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, that's bait. Laugh it off, move on. Tip your hat, respect the craft, and walk before it's on. Oh, that's bait. Still kinda impressed. All that work just to get me killed. Honestly, God bless. Oh, that's bait. Yeah, I see it now. All tank dreams, hoping duct tape, trying to look lowbrow. Oh, that's bait. Smile, wave, don't engage. If it looks too good to be true, that's because it is, my friend. So if you feel that tingle on the back of your neck, just smile and say it with me now. Oh, that's bait. And always take the bait. Whoa, oh, oh, oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, oh, oh. Whoa, oh, oh, oh. Oh, 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 oh. And always take the bait.